How you guys doing? You enjoying this really hot heat? It's pretty miserable out there this week, right? Okay, so she's joining as well. So today is a fascinating, like, I love this topic because Karen Patel is going to talk to you about finances today. And I know that that's exactly the reason why you guys came into the industry, not, right? Not to do budgets, not to be thinking about finances, that really it's all about the children. But I am telling you, like, when you understand your finances, it puts you in the driver's seat for your business and you can go places. And so, really, Karen's going to talk through everything with you and ask questions as they come up, and we'll go from there. Karen, go ahead. Thank you for coming.
Wonderful. Absolutely, Dawn. First, I want everyone to pat yourself on the back. I mean, come on. It's a tough industry, and the fact that you are here willing to take time to learn about numbers, that's a lot, because I know so many people, they stress, they lose the sleep. And as Dawn mentioned, you are here because of the passion of the kids, right? And I want to let you know that I'm a mom, 3 daughters, been there. I've taken my daughters when they were munchkins to places. And so I understand the operations, and as much as I'm in the financial industry, it's about the reality of life and how you as a business owner can actually make money, have a standard of living that's acceptable, and provide your fabulous service to the families, the community, and the munchkins. So I do want to ask, does anybody have a massive challenge when it comes to numbers, budgets, cash flow, just nerves, anything that anybody wants to share? You're all here because you're excited. I'm sorry, what, Becky?
So I can share. I'm not necessarily afraid of numbers, but when it comes to creating a budget that I'm going to stick to is really, really hard for me, because I feel like I'll be in the middle of teaching, and then the kids, you know how the kids are, they're like, oh, look at this. I'm like, oh, we need to go learn something about that. And then I go purchase something else that I probably don't need right at that second. So my budget hates me.
Okay. Anybody else want to share?
It's not the easiest of times right now either, right? Because how many of you are operating at full capacity? So we've got a few, and then that means the rest of you are not, correct? Which makes it additionally challenging. Okay.
Okay. One thing I want to share on Becky's comment, and my day job, I do financial planning with business owners and individuals, and was a banker. I've been in the financial service industry my whole life. And when people think of, you know, their budget, they think of it as being very restrictive. And they're like, oh, I'm over my budget, I'm under my budget. Don't think of it so much as a budget as your spending plan. Even on a personal basis, don't feel restrictive. If you mentally think of your spending plan, you will spend all of this money someday. Today, next month, 5 years from now, or after you've hopefully accumulated some profits and you have money in savings and retirement, guess what? You'll spend it in 20 or 30 years. So I have found a lot of my clients have said, think of a spending plan, because then they don't feel like they can't spend it. They know they will spend it someday. But the biggest thing is, as a business owner, You need to focus on paying yourself. Think of your priorities. If you're not making money as a business owner, other than the passion, or if you have another income coming into your household that can pay for your lifestyle and pay for your family, why are you doing this if you're losing money as a business owner? Okay, so business, personal hat, family hat. So tonight we're going to talk about being a business owner. And as Becky mentioned, when, oh, kids say, let's do this, and you want to spend some more money, every day you are impacting these children. And every day you have an opportunity to spend that money. However, one day a week is all I'm asking. I don't care when you do it. Before the munchkins show up, Thursday night after they leave, one day a week, you need to put on your business owner hat. We're not going to Google about different colored toys or chairs or crayons or, water tables. Okay, you can do that every other day, but one day a week, force yourself for 1 hour. If you want to do it twice a week for 30 minutes, whatever. But this is where you're going to make long-term, short-term, intermediate financial goals and decisions. If you can do that step and just setting aside, even if you stare at the wall for the first 15 minutes, at least think about, start getting a filing system where you're, review your bank statements, what have you. We're going to go through 3 spreadsheets that will help you. And if all you do one day a week is look at those spreadsheets and play with your numbers, you will be successful. Because if you're not aware of the revenue coming in and the expenses going out, you will not be very successful. Most people become an entrepreneur for one of 3 reasons. One, you were working someplace else and you didn't like your boss. And you said, I'm going to be my own boss. Or 2, you thought your other boss was making all these profits. And you thought, I want to make all those profits. Except you probably weren't aware of all those overhead costs that exist. Or 3, and in some cases, you have professional degrees or just a family passion that you want to be able to provide this service for your community, your family, maybe your own kids, and you're going to pick up some more. Can I get a show of hands? Who's in a center versus in-home? Anybody? Okay, Gloria, Carla, center. Okay, Jackie, Ernestine. Okay, so a good bit of you are in a center. Are you, do you own the center or are you in management as the director? Anybody own the center?
I own my center.
Ernestine, you do?
Yes.
I own
Everybody
mine as
else?
well.
Jackie, you own yours? Okay. Everyone else pretty much is the director and needs to control the finances. Okay, so as a business owner, your decisions are probably going to be a little bit different than you being the director needing to manage cash flow, which cash flow is king. It's all about the cash flow. So the one thing I will say, having documentation of many things will make life a lot easier. The person with the most documentation wins, no matter what it is, especially when it comes to finances. If you bought something and somebody told you certain criteria, certain numbers, and then what you got was different, if you didn't have documentation of what was exactly ordered or what they said they were going to provide, or if you had a landscaper come in at the center and they did this or that, documentation. So I'm gonna share our first screen here, unless anybody has some questions or thoughts, but let's find, we're gonna go over a sample budget here. Can everyone see this? Okay, if Dawn, let
Yes.
me know
Yeah,
if
we
somebody,
can. Yep,
'cause
we
I'm-
can.
okay, good. I'm minimizing the screens. So
Yep.
having a budget, there's basically two things. You have revenue, you have expenses, and whatever's left over on paper says you should or shouldn't be making a profit. So there's two elements. If you're not making a profit, you either need to make more money, more revenue, or you need to decrease expenses. That's it. Simple math. If you have 8 minus 10 and you have a -2, you either need to change 8 to be 10 and 10 to be less than 10. 9, 8, 7, anything. So you have a positive. So if we go over the income here, and these, all of these spreadsheets, Dawn, they're in Google Classroom, is that right?
Yes, yes, they're in the classroom for everyone to access. You can make a copy of them and use them for yourself if you like.
So at this point, we're in August right here for column I, but you can, you know, if you'd like, go through, and if you don't have something now, fill in January through July to kind of give you some trends. You can see what's there. Or if not, let's just, if this is your first time and you're starting, put in your number in September and go from there. So income, and all of these, I'm assuming everyone's pretty familiar with Excel. All of these titles, labels, they can all be changed. You can do whatever you want. So go in to the classroom, save it into your own Excel spreadsheet, and you can change it if you have something else. But basically, in the childcare industry and Dawn's expertise, these are pretty much your general income sources. UPK is going to be a little bit different, maybe. You may offer UPK, you might not. The world's changing in the world of UPK. And then, of course, extra services, or let's just call it other. You know, maybe there's a parent that donates, or if you're associated with the church, maybe the church gives a monthly stipend or something like that. And you simply put in the numbers, you add it up, and there's your total income. Expenses generally are going to be the hardest thing that people so often you just don't think about. And it's like, where's the money going? Where, you know, but when you look at these, you will notice your numbers, you're going to think this is crazy, but your numbers are going to talk to you. If you look at your spreadsheet and all of a sudden you look at line 17 from month to month to month, field trips, $50, 125, 300, 400, 700, 800. And then you look at your bottom line in profits, and you can see you're starting to have a net loss every month. Well, that in itself, you're going to be able to see line by line those expenses, and they'll stick out at you that you will know. So bank charges, you have that. The CBIs, you're doing background checks, depending on how many employees you all have in your centers, or if it's just you're a solo and you only have 6 kids, or maybe you do have 10, but it's your daughter or your best friend. You're not going to do a credit background check. Supplies, cleaning services. Cleaning services, if you compare your expenses back in the days of COVID, hopefully have come down quite a bit because you've figured out the quantity you need, what your system is of cleaning the center, And hopefully those are pretty standard on a month-to-month basis, unlike a couple of years ago when they just went out the roof. Dues and subscriptions. You might have your membership association fees. Maybe, Dawn, what other subscriptions might be there?
So they might have a subscription for training service or something along those lines. Some platforms utilize that approach.
Okay.
Curriculum. Well, curriculum you would want to break out separately. I would recommend that that goes somewhere different.
Yeah, because
Okay.
that's your bread and butter of what you are offering, which might differentiate your center or your child care services than a competitor. And so, you know, if you have a competitor and you're losing families to competitor B, you might look at how much are you spending on your curriculum. If that's why you're losing them, that's where you would want to invest in more money in your curriculum for that aspect.
So dues and subscription, is that for like teaching strategy goals? We have to renew that every year, like $400.
You know what, that I would also put in because that's under assessments, right? I would create a line for assessments and a line for curriculum in this, because I don't want you to lose sight of what that does. And for curriculum, frequently you can get a discount if you pay for it in the spring ahead of time versus the rest of the year, right? So I would just, those key components of your program, I would not mix into that, that dues and subscriptions. But if you're a member of ECA or CAFCC or COAC or any of those types of organizations, then you would have membership dues that you would put there. It would be an annual thing in most cases, but yeah.
Dawn, that couldn't fall under licensing?
Licensing, I would treat as licensing fees.
Through the state, things like that.
Yeah, and if they do too many, like if they do more than a couple waiver appeals or stringency appeals, the state has said that they'll start charging for that at some point. I don't know that they have yet, but there's various fees that they might tie to it, or if they want to change their license somehow, then there would be a fee associated with that. So I think it's good to keep licensing separate as well. I'm one of those people that makes a bookkeeper crazy because I've got more accounts than what they really love, but it gives me clarity in my business.
So just real quick, in case some of you aren't familiar, you click on, in case, this line, and you right click and insert another row, and you simply type in assessment. And what you can do is copy, you highlight. Actually, what I could have done is just highlighted and copied the whole row and just change the title.
Yeah.
And you want to paste FX, which is formula. So then as you put in that number, it will make sure it's included in your total expenses and give you a correct estimate on your profit and loss. So assessment, what was the other one you said, Dawn? Curriculum?
Curriculum, yep.
Okay. I'm going to do it like I just said. In this case, I copied the whole row. I'm now, going to insert copied files, and I'm just going to change this to say, curriculum. Did I spell you right? No.
Yeah, it looks great.
Curriculum. Yeah, I did. I was the 6th grade spelling bee champ. I'm usually pretty sure with that, but it's been a tough week. So keep going through employee benefits. Again, if you're a sole provider and you don't have employees, then I would actually change that to be your own benefits. Meaning, if this is your sole source of income, if you worked at a company or any other business, someday you're gonna not work, but you still need your paycheck. So employee benefits in this case might be you, yourself, and that should really be focused on you putting away some sort of funds, some money for your retirement, as depending on how you can pay yourself. So again, if it's employee benefits, if it's healthcare, maybe I don't know what some of the centers, if there's some that are more common than others as to benefits, but life insurance, retirement, healthcare, what have you.
Family.
Food, pardon?
Family.
Yep.
The new laws, right? All the new things that have to be paid out. The Colorado savings, what is it? What do they call
Colorado
it?
secured savings.
Yeah.
I do, I put on a separate webinar just on the different retirement options for business owners as yourself, but one to keep in mind, there's a new law starting this year, January 1. If you have 5 or more employees, that's physical bodies, doesn't matter if you have 10 employees and they're all part-time. If you have 5 bodies, 5 social security numbers, and do not offer some sort of retirement plan, you are required to participate in the state of Colorado's mandated retirement plan. So if you have 5 or more, I'm happy to talk to anybody about that. This is more about accounting and finances. So, but that's something, if you have 5 or more, and if you haven't gotten a notice or don't know much about it, let's talk offline, or we can talk after this if you'd like.
Okay,
You can
can I
schedule
ask a
a
question on that?
Pardon me,
Uh-huh.
Ernestine?
My question is, we had mandated through my the payroll department that we offer a plan for our employees, and it was the 401k. So we're doing the 401k, but they can opt out of it if they want to. But I had to put it in place by law so that I will be in compliance. So
So
I
you
have
have more than 5 employees, Ernestine?
I have 10.
Okay, yep. 401k is one option. There's many different options. There's simples, there's SEPs, but yes, if you have 5 or more, you have to offer something, or if you don't, then you have to work with the state's retirement program. So you don't have to offer your own. It's just, if you don't, then you need to sign up and make sure your employees have access through the state's mandated plan.
Okay, how do I
Okay.
do that? Because, well,
You
I
know
can
what,
check.
Ernestine?
We can talk
Yeah.
about that offline, Ernestine, or
Okay.
Yeah,
and
schedule a consult with Karen.
I
Okay.
will.
Perfect.
so going food, I think that's kind of self-explanatory. Some of you offer food, some the families, the munchkins, bring in their own. Insurance. Please make sure you get your liability insurance, your property insurance, that you get a review and make sure that everything that needs to happen, because there would be nothing worse than you having this fabulous business and there's a fire, or somebody falls and hurts themselves and they come back and sue you. Then if your insurance coverage hopefully is sufficient enough, but please make sure that you review your coverages and protect your business as best as you can.
I am confident they did that because that was last week's homework, right?
Good.
Good job, guys. All right.
Good, fabulous. Any questions on that? I can answer some clarity, provide some clarity. Professional services, depending on the size of your business, your passion and your expertise and wisdom is to provide the child development services. You do not need to be an expert in accounting. You do not need to be an expert in legal aspects with the contracts or the paperwork that your family sign up to. There are other financial professionals that can provide you that guidance, and you as director or owner, then after getting educated by them, you make that decision. It's your business. But having that team, the SBDC has, with North Metro, there's 4 attorneys that can provide general legal advice from an educational standpoint, financial, marketing, all sorts of consultants that can help you. But if and when you do hire somebody, let's say you need your website up to date, that's a professional service that is an expense that you're going to pay, that you'll have. I think the rest of these are pretty well self-explanatory. Let's see here. The difference of having your 1099 staff versus actually having W-2 employees. Who wants to tell me the big difference on this spreadsheet if you have W-2 employees or if you have 1099 contractors? Anybody want to guess or tell me and know what the answer is?
Yep. Michelle got it. She
Oh,
says
did she-
taxes, but she put a
That's-
question mark after
Yep.
it.
You betcha, right here.
Make it an
Number
exclamation
29.
mark.
If you have employees, you are required to match the payroll taxes that your employees pay and your business also gets to pay. If you only have 1099 staff, you do not withhold payroll taxes. You are not responsible for those taxes for those 1099 contractors. That's their responsibility. Teacher appreciation, I hope that's something that you're all able to do and provide in a reasonable aspect. If you are having difficulty retaining staff, sometimes having that teacher appreciation can really make a difference when you know how much you enjoy someone saying thank you or appreciating what you do for those kids. Don't forget your staff. That's an important part just as well. But again, looking at your expenses across the board. Some of you may or may not provide transportation. That, of course, is another expense in utilities. So it's fairly simple. We added 2, right? Assessment and curriculum. Is there anything else that someone put lists as an expense that we haven't talked about that you want to share?
I've never listed it because on my taxes, it always goes under supplies. But thinking of things like decorations or furniture and stuff like that, that we have to buy for the classroom upkeep, and maybe like toys, games. I don't know if that would they all need their own category?
I would say yes, in the sense toys generally. So from accounting purposes and financial purposes, when you're doing your books of what's an expense immediately versus longer term, if something has 1 year or less life, like a toy might last 4 months, right? The point is you expense it that year. But if you are buying new tables, let's hope those tables last for 3 or 5 years. Your accountant then might say, through depreciation, and not to get too entrenched with accounting, but depreciation is a non-cash expense, but it's written off as an expense that will reduce your profits. So I've talked with some childcare centers that have wonderful profits, and they feel they're paying too much in taxes. And so that's a way maybe to increase benefits or improve the furniture. So usually furniture, fixtures, and equipment, FF&E, is something your accountant, your bookkeeper might use. That FF&E, furniture, fixtures, equipment. That generally has a lifespan longer than 1 year. I would definitely separate that out as an expense. Hopefully that
Thank
answers
you.
your question, Carla.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, next question. Who thinks any of these expenses, who thinks that none of these are within your control? Or you think they're all in your control? Any of these expenses? Anybody want to guess? Who's brave?
I have a feeling you're going to say they are all in our control.
They are, you betcha, except 2. The credit bureau background checks and payroll taxes. If you have employees, it's not your choice. You've got to pay them. But you are exactly correct. Every single one of these expenses are within your control. And having them in front of you visually that you can see them, if you're not a numbers person and you are visual, having this spreadsheet will help you see the trends of the increase in your revenues as well as the increase in expenses. Because how do you make profit? You either increase revenue or you need to decrease your expenses. That's adding and subtraction, simple math. So hopefully that doesn't stress anybody out as far as that's concerned. But let's go to our next slide here. And I'm trying to find it. Here we go. This is also in the Google Classroom. And so this is where if you are having issues trying to, you're charging everything, but where's your cash going? How much should you pay yourself? How much can you pay yourself if you are a home provider and not a center that gives yourself a salary? So in this case, obviously this is only 6 children, but if you have more, you can simply add them. So does anybody see the difference in any of these months? What's changed? The month of March, child number 5, child number 6. Maybe they left in February and you didn't get a new family until April, right? So keeping track of this, so you know with your revenue right here, 4,800 a month, 4,800, 3,200. Well, if you don't have that in revenue and you still have a lot of these expenses or you're projecting them, right? Maybe you hold off when somebody said, when do you buy some new things? Well, if you know a family's given you notice and they're going to leave in September and you planned in your budget to buy more toys in September for $500 and now you just lost a family and you don't have them yet, That's where you might need to take that out, right? In your cash flow, it's not available. So if we go back to January, just for simple, you had $4,800, you now have $4,800 in cash, right? And whether you're we're just, rather than showing everything, your utilities, you have budgeted for $118 a month. $4,800 minus 118, that's your expenses, means this is your total profit. That's also your net cash. You don't have any loans, you don't have to pay anybody, so guess what? Woohoo, you're going to take out $3,000 that month. And this formula in Excel now shows you have ending cash of $1,682. Does everybody see that? This template, and you can see the formulas are up here. Don't mess with the formulas. But you can see in this template, oh, I just messed with it. Oh, what did I just hear? Let's Control Z.
We're back, right? I love that. Love that back button.
Control Z's not doing it.
There's an undo button at the top. I don't know if that
Yep.
would help.
Next to the save. Yeah, that back one. Yep.
There we go. Shoo! Okay. Don't mess with the formula. Anyway, so ending cash in January, you now have 1682. And if you see, voila, line 9, there's your 1682. And if you noticed, you added $1,500 because you knew you had an expense coming up or what have you. And so now you have $79.82 for cash available. And it will continue to go through. Again, we are only showing utilities. There you have $17,864. You didn't take anything out. Here's your ending cash, $17,864. Goes up here. Here's your beginning cash. But what happens? Remember, you only have $3,200 in revenue now. So here's your total cash available. However, if you had all of your expenses in here listed, your phone, your insurance, your supplies, your labor, your payroll, accounting, marketing, licensing, whatever it is, guess what? Now your net profit's only $3,082. The good news is you're still in the black, but we also aren't listing all of these expenses. And this will continue. So as you go through and look at and project out, you will know what your cash is, what you can add for additional purchases that you might have. Here it looks like October, November, December. Oh, this is the total amount. So here you had $5,600 in revenue for the year. You injected $1,500 in cash, took out your expenses, and you had a draw. Okay. Any questions on this spreadsheet? If you're able to go back and do this for last year, if you don't currently have any bookkeeper or anyone that provides a cash flow statement for you, just like you would with your personal checkbook, when you're trying to figure out how much you're spending, how much can you spend, you know, quarterly you have your car insurance due, or every 6 months your water bill, or whatever it is. This is where, when you don't have a monthly expense and you know your insurance is maybe quarterly, you need to make sure you have enough cash in your account before you start taking out draws, or before buying new furniture or equipment. Any questions?
Yes, I do have a question, Karen. This is Gloria.
Uh-huh.
So I work for a nonprofit and we have additional items that, we have on our tracking or our budget.
Okay.
Have you seen anything like, we have a marketing contractor, they do all our marketing,
Yep.
but
So that's right there.
yeah, so part of the work that they do is helping with events when we do our fundraisers. Have
Where you do
seen
your what? You
the
said fundraising?
the events, to fundraise money for, fundraisers.
Okay.
So have you seen any, or do you have any best practice that the amount that we're paying our contractor, which is a marketing company, do you keep marketing just as an item of its own, like separate from everything
I would
else?
definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you do not take any portion of that and include that into fundraising expenses, right?
I would definitely keep it separate because
Yes.
having your website and or whatever your social media, actually I would even keep social media separate than your website. Website might be where you have your families, if maybe they are able to pay you through your website versus them coming with a check, I don't know, but your website is more constant. If you have to do separate fundraising, that's going to be maybe twice a year.
Mhm.
Mother's Day, holidays, what have you. And so as you look at your cash flow, maybe you wanted to spend 10 grand, but if your cash flow doesn't allow it because you aren't fully booked with all your families, you have 5 openings, well, can you afford it? Or because you have 5 openings, maybe you need to spend more. Well, if you spend more on your fundraising, where's the money going to come from?
Mhm.
Right? I mean, some people think money grows on trees. No, it doesn't. Your numbers will show you. And again, maybe even with your cash, instead of at the bottom when you have owner's draw, maybe you add a line and you have your emergency fund or you have your long-term fund. And so when you take $5,000 out, it's called emergency fund or contingent fund or future expansion fund, but it will then subtract from your net cash. And then you have that as a separate item on your balance sheet.
Thank you.
Was that helpful?
Yes, very much. Thank you.
You know what, if anything, I would recommend both on this spreadsheet, but more importantly, the other one, just do a brain dump. Go through your checkbook, go through your bank statement, and you don't want to have 100 expense items. Try to, if you have events, book events together, and then you'll have your side notes of the details of what it, the amount you raised for that event and all of those specific items. Maybe you had to buy extra, I don't know, extra paper because you were having a coloring contest versus, or Mother's Day, you had to buy extra, little plastic flowers because that was going to be the art project or something. But just events as a whole. So try to have as much of a summary as possible, which is kind of what this cash flow shows. Office supplies, whether it's toner, scissors, glue, paper, whatever. that's how much you spend on a monthly basis.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have one more.
Okay,
We use QuickBooks.
okay.
So can I take that information off of QuickBooks and put it incorporated in this spreadsheet to help me to see it a little better?
Sure, but if you're in QuickBooks now,
Yes.
you're getting the best detail ever. If you should be able to, in QuickBooks, pull reports, and you can customize your reports of how it looks. So like I said, with events in QuickBooks, you should have an expense item line called events, but you can have sub reports, and that's where you would capture all of the detail for the Mother's Day event, the holiday event. But the Excel
Okay.
spreadsheet is for someone who's not utilizing a software like QuickBooks. QuickBooks, you enter the data and it can be utilized in many different ways to give you those reports. So
Okay.
maybe Ernestine, look at some of those report offerings that are there. If you have a bookkeeper or whoever, you know, they'll be able to, whoever's doing the data entry and stuff, they should know QuickBooks fairly well.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
if you need other assistance, we've got a consultant at the North Metro SBDC that is great at QuickBooks. And if she doesn't know the answer, she will figure it out and then help you with it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the Excel spreadsheets is a way for someone, those of you in a center, I'm sure you do have QuickBooks or you have something more formalized. But if you are in home, or if you're looking to expand and become a center, the Excel spreadsheets is a good way to start. And then from there, generally, you would graduate into a software like QuickBooks. But Carol Johnson is our QuickBooks consultant, and you can schedule a time with her if you've got questions, and she can kind of help you work through some of those as well.
And really, spreadsheets are helpful in projecting, right? If you're like, what would happen if, then break out one of the spreadsheets and put some, you know, you can combine all of your expenses for that purpose out of QuickBooks and stuff, but you can kind of see like what would happen if we did this.
That's a great segue, Dawn, because our next spreadsheet and last spreadsheet, let's say you've gone through and you have knocked down every expense imaginable. You've renegotiated some expenses with some of your vendors. So now we're going to look at the income aspect. And so this is a wonderful spreadsheet that's provided again in the classroom. And so here you can see, sorry, let's go way up back to the top. And this also helps with Shine when part of your reporting, in order to get, and I'm forgetting, 4-star, it's 5 stars in Shine, right? 5 stars.
Yeah.
You need to have projections and have financial statements that show the operations of your business. And so this is one right here that is a way for you to look at your pricing and do some projections. What if here's your weekly rate of $300 for 0 to 18 months. What if you went to $310, let's just say, or part-time? If you modified any of these prices, this is where you come down, and let's say child number 1 is 0 to 18 months. Child number 2, let's say, is a 2-year-old. Child number 3 is, you know, a 3-year-old. And so this is where you can, with your income going all the way, I think it goes to 12. look at your pricing and what those rates would come down to. You also have your CCAP, the food program, and this is where your income comes into play. So if you need to have, let's say your expenses are $5,400, but your revenue is only $5,000, and you've cut every expense imaginable, what can you do to increase your income? So this is a nice way to look at where your income sources are and what it might look like if in fact you do change your pricing.
And what's the highest quality rating that you need in order to maximize your CCAP revenue? Does anyone know? 4. Yeah, it's 4, because 4 and 5 pay the same. You really don't have to get a 5.
Unless you have an ego and you want to get a 5. Right?
Put that on a
But-
balance with stress for you and your staff and think about that.
Yeah. But for CCAP, right? Now, Dawn, what about tier 1, tier 2?
That's for the food program in terms, so we know that the food programs was doing tier 1 reimbursements because of COVID and all of that, but they've wiped that out, right? I mean, isn't that gone? I'm pretty sure that's gone now. It's kind of one of those quiet things that.
So
went away.
should we modify this and take
No,
off?
leave it there, because
Okay.
some homes are in a tier 1 neighborhood and would qualify for that. Some schools are in a tier 1 neighborhood, so leave both of those there.
Okay, okay.
If you're not participating in a food program, you're burning money. It's more requirements on you and that sort of thing, but I'm telling you, like, I'm the woman who got frustrated with my food program person because she kept showing up when I was doing school runs and was irritated that she had to wait in the driveway until I got back. And so I went, forget it. I made an emotional decision to get rid of the food program, and it cost my family because of it. So do what you have to do to participate, because it does provide extra money every year.
Does anybody have any other ideas of ways to increase revenue or cut expenses in order to make a good profit for yourself and your center?
Okay, so I have a question. When does a toy become used?
As soon as a child touches it.
That's right. So why do you have to always buy brand new toys? Just saying. Consignment stores. I mean, sometimes when I walk into ARC, I'm like, oh, somebody's gonna score. Like, I know how much that costs, right?
You know what? When you have somebody like me or other people who are community minded, and you know, I don't have grandkids, and I've saved some stuff from my daughters that I want to keep, but we've had fabulous toys. I mean, wonderful toys that maybe they got. How many families do those kids get way too many toys for their birthday or their holiday, and they never touch them? They're still in the box. They get donated. I know what I've donated to ARC. A lot of other people. So Dawn, that's a fabulous idea. If you need to, want to, image, what have you, even Amazon, some of those things, they're pretty pricey. You know how much you go through them.
And local consignment stores, if you go and introduce yourself and offer to maybe advertise for them with cards in your program or something, they may be willing to put you on a wait list for, like, they'll call you when a specific toy comes in, right? So if you're needing something very specific, you can make those arrangements with them free of charge just by cross-marketing with them.
Yeah, and Gina just put in the chat about, you know,
That's
as a
awesome.
nonprofit,
Yeah.
that you're able to go in. I mean, how wonderful.
Yeah, a
So
lot of the
at-
communities out here are super supportive in providing materials, but I also suggest the first people you should be asking are the parents for donations.
Yeah. Agreed.
Well, and something to keep in mind, just because you officially are a nonprofit does not mean you can't make a profit. You can. You need to grow, you need to improve things. You still need to have resources. Now, if you're making 50 grand a year off of revenue of 100,000, yeah, the IRS is going to come back and question that nonprofit status. But many people think just because you're a nonprofit, you can't have a profit, and that's not correct. So just in case somebody wondered, if that's the case.
What else do you save money on? So you can buy curriculum in the spring so that it's discounted. What else do you guys do? Do you buy in bulk anytime from Sam's
That's-
Club? Drive down
That's
your
what I was
costs?
just about to say. I buy paper towels, toilet paper, tissues, all in bulk.
Yep, perfect. Anything else?
Getting back to cash flow, buying in bulk is fabulous. But now you're going to have a $300 bill instead of a $15 bill going to the local store because, oops, you ran out of paper towel. So looking at your cash flow, and if you can plan for it and know that you're going to have this $300 or $400 bill in buying bulk, that's a great way to manage it. Absolutely. But you have to manage the cash in order to be able to take advantage of that.
See how it puts you in the driver's seat and makes it possible for you to know for sure without going, okay, here's my card. Right? We've all had those moments where we're like, I hope this works out okay. You never have to have a moment like that ever again. Intentionally get a cup of coffee, sit down, get in your books, dig into the numbers, be confident, walk in confidence in the numbers that are around your program so that you can confidently hand the card over and make your purchases.
And
Some-
be proud of yourself because you just saved money for your center and you're still providing exactly what your kids need.
Something that a lot of centers don't know either. We are a nature-based preschool, so we're very environmentally aware of the uses that we have. I recently spoke with our Department of Health and Human Services, and when I walked into the school, they were using cut up towels as hand towels after washing hands. And I wasn't aware that that is okay as long as they are just one use towels and then they have to go through the sanitation cycle on the wash, but that saves us hundreds of dollars every month in paper towels.
Nice call. Yeah. Great idea, Gina. Anyone else have any ideas to share?
I just have one more.
Uh-huh.
Our operations director was able to lower the cost of our internet by switching to the city's connection. The city of Fort Collins, the new connection provider. So yeah, we're saving some hundreds of dollars there every month. And also with the phone company. So we switched providers, we got better quotes and deals, and pretty much everything has, like switching to a different provider and then lowering costs. But this is for a center that has 32 employees, so that's a really big saving.
That's Great, Gloria. You know, at ECA, we're working really hard to find ways to drive down costs for businesses. So we're intentionally setting up partners. So we've got a radon partner that saves you 10%. We've got a playground inspector that saves you 10%. We just added, I'm signing the contract tomorrow. So we've got a credit card vendor who will drop your credit card processing fees to $5 a month, which will save most programs right around $50,000 a year. So we're pretty excited about that. And we're going to work on legislation this year to drive down, to do property tax legislation. We want to use the Texas approach where the legislature can authorize local counties to waive property taxes for childcare businesses. And so we're going to work on that legislation this year because that is going to be a tremendous savings as well. Not to, you know, but yeah.
And all of these great ideas come the one day a week when you're sitting there just focusing on your business. You have got to put on your business hat. And then when you're done with that, then go do what your heart wants to and provide and fulfill your passion with helping your child that and the students that are there. And you got to turn your brain on and off. And so again, pick your day. I would love for anybody to shout out to say Tuesday at 3 o'clock when they're napping, or Wednesday at 10 or whatever. Just, it's really for yourself. Do it for yourself and you will find your focus all around will just be better, because all of the numbers and the business stuff is somewhere over here, and then you can focus on what you truly want to do in your passion.
Well, and centers are more likely to have a bookkeeper and that sort of thing. You home providers and those shoe boxes, you don't think I know that you take those receipts and put them in a shoebox and go, I'll deal with it later. And then you get to the last 2 weeks of the year and you're like, oh my gosh, it's full and I have to, yeah, right? You have to figure it out and break out taxes and break out. So seriously, on that conveyor belt at Walmart, when you've got your groceries, divide them with 2 dividers. So you have 3 sections. That first section is just family. So you pay for it with your personal debit card. Then you've got your mixed purchases, which is going to be your time space purchases. You've got paper towels and toilet paper and all those things that the business and your home utilizes. So you know your time space percentage. And if you don't, you need to meet with me so that I can help you with that. But you know your time space percentage. You say, okay, let me do the math on that section. I'm going to pay 28% on my business debit card, and the remainder is on my personal debit card. And then the last is 100% deductible, things that are just for your business, and you make sure to pay for that out of your business card. And whoever's in line behind you, if they're irritated, they can go to another line. Thank you very much. That will save you so much time. Go ahead, Gina.
So as a nonprofit, when we receive grants, sometimes we have to spend the money before we get the money. And that is kind of the issue that I continue to run into when it comes to budgeting. We'll think that we have 75,000 in our bank account, but we have to spend half of that to then get the money back. And then we end up being so low in the bank account that we're stressing over just basic needs that might have to be met before we get the reimbursement. Do you have any suggestions on how to navigate that?
So I think you're going to have to do some intensive savings, right? And over the next few years, start intentionally putting funds into a savings account so that you have a buffer to spend for that purpose alone. And then you can reimburse it when you get the funds, right? I mean, I think that's really the way you have to go about it. Karen, do you have any other ideas on that?
Exactly. how I'm, whether you call it emergency fund or you call it upfront expenses or whatever, and just put it in your spending plan. If you can, maybe figure a percentage. Maybe your goal is to get an average amount of these grants that you have to pre-spend. Let's just say it's $24,000 and you're going to give yourself 2 years to try to start building, right? So that's 24 months. So that's $1,000 a month. Just open, maybe you can, wherever the bank account is, open up a separate savings account, a separate money market. Just like those of you who have employees, I sure hope you have your operating account and a payroll account. You have that payroll account separate. When you've got to pay those taxes, that money's there. Separate it. I sure hope your cash flow never gets to the point that instead of making a payroll tax payment, you're spending it with something else. That is really going to get you caught really quick. Business will be probably shutting down if you get to the point that your cash flow can't. So,
Yeah, then the
Gina,
county sells it off for real, the state sells it off for real cheap, right?
Yeah.
They'll sell your business off because of non-payment of those.
Yep.
Yeah.
You just never want to mess with the IRS. So, maybe there's a good month or you get a donation from somebody, just put it outside of the general operating fund. So when you're doing your spreadsheet of what your cash is, don't include that extra cash in there, because that's basically money over here, kind of like a down payment on a house or a down payment on a car. You're going to put it over there and then you're going to spend it in one lump sum. But when you get that reimbursement, I would keep it back, and then therefore you don't need to continue to, as I call, stash money away in that savings account.
And then thank you, Gina, for sharing that link. Buell Foundation is funding right now. Their application closes on September 1. So if you want to apply for funds, this is the time to do it. Now, yes, just be careful with UPK funds, because it is actually in statute that those funds have to be spent on the UPK program specifically. So be very, very, they're not likely to be coming after you this year with everything that's, but that is one thing in statute. So, which is actually a thing that has to change, because if we're going to have UPK actually support the entire industry, we need those funds to be applicable to the entire program. Because if you as a private provider can offer the service at a lower cost, then you should be able to spread the financial benefits of that over your entire program. So that is one ask of the legislature that we will have to do this year.
So are we going to have a session on UPK?
We're going to do that in 2 weeks. We'll talk about it then. I figured that's going to be all of your questions. Yeah. If you didn't get my update today, go to our website and look at the news feed, and because there's some pretty critical information out there today.
Read that
Okay.
whole thing and have so many concerns and questions, and I pass it on to my teachers, and I'm trying to inform everyone, including parents, about what's going on.
Yeah.
Because nobody really knows. And when it comes to the additional funds, I've asked our early childhood council, I've called UPK and like the program itself, and have talked to representatives, and they basically said that those additional funds should go towards basic functioning of day-to-day routines. And so, for me, I'm like, I rather spend it on professional development, because that's what we need funds for. And they basically were like, do what you want.
Yeah, this year it pretty much is that kind of mentality, but we've got to get it out of that statute verbiage. and more generalize that so that it can be applicable across your program. Yeah.
I would say anything when it comes to finances, be on the conservative side of, there's nothing wrong having additional cash where you think, where can I spend it? And professional development for your staff is the best way to do it. And I mean, you retain your teachers that way. It's so hard to find good quality help in any industry. And so just being conservative, knowing your cash flow, knowing your numbers. And I think the biggest thing is having Dawn is phenomenal for your industry. I cannot tell you what a cheerleader she has been. And the SBDC is also here. No question is a dumb question. The better you can get educated and know what your options are, a better decision you'll be able to make for your business and for your whole organization and your family. Any last questions, Dawn? I think you still do some breakouts or some other things, so.
Yeah, we'll do some other stuff, but any more questions for Karen?
Thank you so
So
much.
oh, go ahead, Gina.
I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And this week, when you're thinking about your finances, because you know that's your homework, right? When you're thinking about it, if you get stumped or you need help with that, go to the website and sign up for a free consultation with Karen. Why would you not do that? Right? Get the help and support. And it's very specialized with that business mindset. And so it's a tremendous resource. And Karen is someone who can just really help you dig in.
Ah, I feel honored, Dawn. You're so great. And I didn't pay her to say that either, but good luck to all of you. You're doing God's work, and all those munchkins out there love you to death. Even if they can't talk yet, I know that they think that. So have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you, Karen. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So someone tell me something good you did for your homework last week. Insurance and legal structure. Don't be shy, call it out.
I contacted my insurance agent.
And how'd
And
that go?
I set an appointment to sit down with him to make sure that I had the coverage I needed for my center.
Good, so
So-
you've got an appointment coming up?
Yes,
Fantastic,
Yeah.
perfect. And that didn't take you very long, did it?
no, it just made me think about it. Do I have it correct? And I
Yeah.
want to make sure that, it's correct. for the
Absolutely,
insurance. Okay.
that's great, Ernestine. Anybody else?
I also contacted my agent.
Good, good.
Seems like I'm good, so.
But look at that. Now you can rest assured, right?
Right.
It takes a little bit of weight off your shoulder just to know it's okay. Because we all have this little nagging thing in the back of our head that's like, oh, is it good? It's another cringe thing, right? Like, I really hope we're covered on all of that. Now you just know. And put it into your calendar every year, just check on it. And make it an automatic reminder. And then you don't ever have to think about it again until your alert says, time to check on your quotes. And in that calendar invite, put the phone numbers for the people you want to contact. So it makes it really accessible. You don't have to do more work in order to accomplish that. It just pops up and you go, okay, let me shoot an email to you. Like, can we check on this? Set up an appointment, get it done. I live and breathe by my calendar. It's the only way I can get things done. I have to have my list of to-dos in front of me every day. Okay, good deal. Glad to hear that worked out for you guys. I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of slides or anything, but I do want to share with you some benchmarks in the industry. These vary from state to state a little bit. They vary from industry to industry, but this really is trying to get you in some target ranges for childcare specifically. So if you can keep your occupancy rate at 70% or higher, then you will be profitable. But here's the thing, like you've got to know where is that line's going to vary a little bit per program. 70 is about the average target for that before you move into profitability. So you need to know in your line, where is your line? Because do you want to ever have it dip below? No, because if it does, you're losing money, and you need to be able to make a call to pull some staff or do. If you have to close a room in order to stay out of the red, you might have to do it. And that's a hard decision to make. But don't close so much down that you can't pay your rent and everything else, right? So you have to know those numbers. Salaries are usually about 42 to 45% of net revenues. So net is tuition minus discounts, right? Because don't forget about those discounts that you're doing for some of your staff. Discounts should be less than 5% of your net revenue, because they really can undermine your budget in a very subtle way. And your rent, you want it to be 15% or less revenue at 70% or higher occupancy rate. So any questions about that? Those are good targets to start from when you're looking at your budget to kind of see where you're at. And then if you have to adjust, then adjust. CCAP, what percentage of CCAP do you guys have in your program?
A pretty small percentage.
Yeah. Generally, I mean, I have heard of, I just talked to a program the other day, 75% CCAP, and new in the state, was told, oh, this stuff just pretty much processes by yourself. You don't really have to worry about it, until she started realizing something was wrong with her numbers. And she dug back in and realized that the county actually still owed her tens of thousands of dollars, multiple tens of thousands of dollars. And you know what they said to her? Well, you had to do that within 60 days. So we will not be done with that discussion. So just knowing the logistics behind everything. Generally, we've seen maybe 15%. CCAP is a pretty safe amount in most programs. I've seen some be able to do it at 25%. It just depends on your community and what your rates are and all of that sort of stuff, right? So again, that's a critical piece when it comes to your numbers. So, and then I also want to make sure you guys know about these. Have you seen these business guides? Okay, so let me put these in the chat for you. Where's my chat? I have to stop share. So let me put them in this way. So the department's been working on that. That one's for this childcare centers. This one is for family childcare homes. And so they really, let me go back to sharing so I can show you. They have a lot of details in here about running a program. And so they're going to go into pretty much, I mean, you name it. It's pretty much in here. And they've been updating these annually. I know that there's some other consultants in the field and myself that have added and contributed to what the content is in this. And so they're trying to make it as comprehensive, 35 pages about business stuff. So very, very helpful. And here's an acronym list for you when you're like, what does that stand for? Especially if you're newer to the industry. Our industry is notorious for abbreviations, right? CCDF and CDBD. I always do that wrong. CCDBG. I never get that one right. Never. So, pretty good stuff. Higher ed's the same way. It's just we have to stop making that an automatic thing that rolls off of our lips. But those are actually, oh, this is nothing. Those are actually on the state website. So if you ever lose them and want to track them down, just go to resources and stuff on CDEC's website and you'll be able to find them there. Good stuff. So how does it feel, finances? Like, is it still intimidating or does it feel a little more approachable now? Yeah, little bit. When you start playing with your numbers and when you start projecting out, that's when it gets exciting, right? When you're like, okay, got 2 new families, let's see what that does to the budget, right? Then it gets exciting. So if you run into issues where it's blocking you from doing this process, I want you to sign up with someone, anyone at the SBDC and get some help on it, okay? Because I need you, yes, Nicole, I need you to be better about it because we're walking such fine margins right now in this industry. Look, we posted a survey of 100 UPK providers, and if you read those comments in there, it is depressing how short on funds some programs are right now. And we know what that does to businesses. Yep, there you go, right, Gina? Just adjusting that fee is huge. Homes, like if you're not collecting 2 weeks deposit to apply towards your last 2 weeks of care, you are crazy. And if they can't afford to pay a whole 2 weeks, then say that's fine. In the first week, we just do a week and a day, right? And then every week that they do that, so that you get 10 weeks of just applying 1 extra day to that, so that in the end, if they leave without notifying you, you still have 2 weeks of income to apply. Now, don't spend it in advance, right? That is a set aside for when they leave. Then it can either be applied to that final 2 weeks of care, or it's the 2 weeks of care when they're not there, and it gives you a transition time to get another family in there. I had one person who was like, I can't afford to do the whole thing. I said, that's fine. We'll do a week and a day. So she paid the first time. And then the next week on Monday, she practically ran out of my, like dropped a kid and tried to run out the door. And I actually went to the door and was like, you have to pay tonight when you come back. And so she's like, yeah. So she tries to come in and tries to grab her daughter and head out the door. And I'm like, nope. Where's my pay? And she goes, well, I can't pay you, and you're not going to get paid for today anyway, because I can't pay you till Friday. And I said, that's where you're wrong, because when you paid me last week, you paid me for a week and a day. And since you can't pay me for care, you get to find somewhere else to be. I said, you knew my policies and you still enrolled and did all of this. See ya. And she's like, you're really going to terminate me? And I said, have a nice life. You have to be firm in your fiscal. Why would you take on someone else's debt? If you don't get your money when it's due to you, you are assuming someone else's debt. You become a lender. Why would you do that? Do not undermine your finances through your policies and your approaches. Yeah. You have to just be very firm. You have to build those protective things in for your business so that they can't tap into you, right? Okay, so here's the thing. It's going on 7:30. I'm going to send you guys to breakout rooms. Do you want 15 or 20 minutes in breakout? What do you want?
15.
15. Okay, I've heard 15 a couple times. Let's do that. We'll put you in breakout for 15 minutes, then we'll talk about next week's stuff. And then if we have a few minutes at the end, I'll talk to you a little bit about UPK as well tonight, rather than making you wait for the entire thing in 2 weeks, okay? So let me get the breakout room set up. Let's see, 2, let you pick. I should have done this while she was talking, but you know, combs. And enters. And you get a self-select. So here you go. Quarter till, I'm going to pull you back. Talk about finances, support one another.
Okay, how do I go in there?
Okay, you need the center, right, Ernestine?
Yes.
I'll send you there. There you go. How about you, Ashley? Ashley, do you need centers or homes? I forget. Ashley is not really there. Ashley is at a center, so I'm going to send her anyway. Oh. I'm like, I know when you're not paying attention. In this class, I don't care much. In pyramid, it pisses me off.
Right. Right. Like that's like when I turn my camera off, I'm like, I'm still listening. I'm just my face right now. I'm taunting CCAP and all this. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
So what was helpful in the breakouts? It was not just social hour. Come on now.
We talked a lot about funding and different ways to get funding and
Oh, you muted again. I don't know how.
Sorry.
There you go.
I don't know
That's
how
all
I
right.
did that. But we just talked about all the different ways to get funding, and Gina had talked about how you can actually take a grant writing course at one of like the local colleges, and just to get more, to get used to doing stuff like that and not having to hire out to have somebody help you with all of that.
It really isn't all that difficult to write a grant, and there are sample grants out there that you can use as templates, and you just kind of go, okay, let me just replace my words for this part and my words for this part. And as long as it lines up with what your funder is wanting to do, you read through their explanation of what they want to fund, and you just make sure to create alignment in what you're presenting. There you go. Nice. Chat GPT. There you go. Make it easy. I spend all this time just writing and writing and writing. If you haven't noticed, I get lots of time writing, but yeah. So when my son tells me I have to write a 3-page paper, I'm like, oh, let me show you what I did today. And he'll be like, never mind. So all right, anything else you want to share as far as what you're doing in breakouts? How are the homes doing? Good? Nice. So you guys really think about, so here's what we're going to be doing next week. We're going to have one of my favorite speakers, Nancy Barnett. She's going to come and talk to you guys about marketing. So you are going to love Nancy, and she's going to make you think about some different things in terms of marketing your program. And she's got great resources and everything else. So that's what we're going to go in depth into next week. This week, obviously, for homework, I want you guys to get into your numbers and make sure you know where you're at and start building out those budgets if you need to, or clean up things in QuickBooks. But you got to be in all of that so that you're in control of your business. So next week, I want to hear what you've done along those lines, okay? Because I want to see that confidence, not to be here, I want you guys to be comfortable, competent business owners and leaders, because you're in control of your finances. Okay, good deal. All right, so we have 12 minutes left. I met with this here. Yeah. Yeah, oh yeah, Buell is all about it. And the new CEO actually is not as ingrained in the CDEC infrastructure as the previous one, Susan Steele, was. And so they actually have been able to kind of go, okay, let's step back a little and let's be really all in for the industry again. And so that's a great thing. Yeah. Okay, questions. Here's your chance. You got 11 minutes for UPK questions.
Are my UPK kids gonna lose their funding?
No,
Okay.
no, but
I've-
well, no, that won't lose it. It'll all be in reserves. But I was telling Corey that the second line of this 50-page document that I'm only 22 pages into is it says for declaratory and injunctive relief. Do you guys know what injunctive means? Injunction means to stop.
I don't know
there-
John, they might not know about the lawsuits. Not everybody knows.
Oh, I just assumed you guys all read my update. Did you not read my update? Well, there you go. So if you go to our website, so here, let me put this over here and share screen. So every Thursday we put these out on there. So if you don't get an email, you can always go to our website and find it there. I usually try for like 1 o'clock. Today it had to be after our meeting with the governor's office, so it had to be 3:30 when we got it out. But here is the update from today, and it shares with you the fact that the case and many plaintiffs sued the state of Colorado today. School districts sued the state of Colorado to have injunctive relief, which means to put a pause on UPK because they fear that they're not going to be able to fund, that they're not going to be able to comply with federal SPED regulations. So there's lots of details here. There's a story here from Colorado Public Radio News. And then down below that is an actual link to that article, and then a link to the filing that was done with the state of, with the courts. So there's that. And then we've got, because something interesting in this article is the governor tried to imply that some different groups of adults attempting to co-opt preschool for themselves, perhaps because they want to not allow gay parents to send their kids to preschool, or they want to favor school districts over community-based early childhood centers. I will tell you that that is not true. ECEA has been meeting with CASE, with the attorneys for CASE and the executive director and stuff. We knew that this lawsuit was coming, and kind of what the merits of that were going to be. So it's really kind of like they're just trying to pit us against them, and we're not going to do that. We have an agreement from CASE that when it comes to getting contracts for 3-year-olds or that sort of thing, like they used to do under CPP, like they're like, we will work that out with you. We will find solutions to that issue so that if a school district doesn't have the capacity to serve all those kids, we'll figure out a way efficiently to make sure that we're subcontracting with community-based providers for those services. So that's a pretty great thing, because in our history, like those kinds of conversations have been very rare and few and far between. So pretty excited about that. And so because of that attempt to make it look like it's just trying to steal things for the school district, we decided to post a survey results. So yeah, 2 days ago, we sent out a community-based center and preschool survey, and we've had 100 people who have replied to that. And this document is now 104 slides long, and it tells you lots of details about how programs are experiencing this. And then these are their words. We just pulled, screenshot them right off of the tool so that people could see what they have to say about those things. It's pretty intensive. I mean, I will tell you, I haven't even had time to read all of this yet, like no chance, not yet. So that, and then the other good thing is, based off of a meeting this week, because we told Lisa Roy point blank on Monday that they had the requirement that your program had to be all in 100% UPK in whatever classroom or setting that you have preschool. They wanted it all UPK funded kids in that space. Not everybody was told that, but that was the intent of the department. And so they have put out guidance today that they will, that they're going to not require that. See this here? You are not expected to adopt an all-in model of universal preschool delivery. And then I underlined this part that they had in their email this year, because they did clearly say this year. So we're working towards continual improvements, and we don't want to have to fight these same battles year after year after year. And these are the kinds of things that undermine business. And then of course they're like, oh, and by the way, we're going to throw some money your direction. Like that's what comes here. I am not supposed to be political in this, so I will tell you, as an advocate, as an industry advocate, it's very hard for me to step outside of that role. And really at the SBDC, what you need to know about the SBDC is every person there is going to do everything they can to help you find ways to not only sustain your business, but to help your business to thrive. So please understand that there's a difference in roles here. And I know I just kind of went off the rails because I've been living and breathing this thing for weeks now. But there's just, it's a lot of really critical stuff that's happening in our industry. Even the next story down is about federal rule changes for CCDF, which if they make those rule changes, they're going to actually be able to pay you better for CCDBG. Hey, I did it. Right acronym. And so they're looking at paying for slots versus anything else. And if those rules come federally, then they're going to be able to finally have changes on the state level that will, and county level, that are going to benefit you and your program. And so if you have time, I encourage you before the 28th to read through that, or to just say, like, these rules will make a huge difference for our business, right? And let them know so that they're really incentivized to make those changes. This is a very, very rare thing that they're even doing. And so I just want to make sure that always that your voices are the ones that are heard. That's why we do surveys the way that we do. And I know it's hard to stop and fill out surveys sometimes, but we can say it until we're blue in the face. When you guys say it, they really have to listen, right? We've been telling them all of these things for a long time. And now we have so far 100 voices that are saying, this is what's happening to me. So injunctive relief means to pause. So we will see what happens with the court case. I have no idea what I haven't had a chance to talk to my attorney in terms of like what anticipated timelines would be or anything else. ECEA is committed to always elevating community program voices. So we will continue to do that work to make sure that things do come out of this system equitably for all providers. We don't want to see mixed delivery undermined in any way, shape, or form. questions?
It looks like Jackie has one in the chat.
Oh, I can't even see my chat right now. Let's see here. Stop
Sorry,
sharing.
my
Oh,
kids
that's
are going all crazy back here, so I'm like, I might as well just use the chat.
fun.
But no, basically at this point, I just signed my agreement for UPK yesterday, and I'm kind of freaking out about it with all the red flags that have literally happened within 24 hours. Like it's absolutely crazy. I haven't received any families yet because I barely created my profile through, I think it's Bridge Care. And I was talking to my representative, Noreen, and she was telling me that I should probably look into getting families starting next week. But at this point, just because of so many red flags, I'm so scared that if this is even something that I should even move forward with, and in getting myself involved in all the chaos and mess that I don't know really what to do at this point.
So, I think it's just being informed, right? And so part of that, like last week, and most people don't know about this, I added a UPK tab to our website so that we could give kind of the answers to the questions in the way that you need it, right? Because so many things were spoken through policy, but not written down, or all these various things. So we created some details there. I have not updated this yet today because it's just too busy to include. I mean, there is a comment that includes the all in. That actually was the thing that inspired them to go ahead and do that. Is they said, "You're right, Dawn. Like, we don't have it in the agreement that you can't do mixed classrooms." So they
Don,
decided, they said they could pivot and do it then. What?
Don, I have a question for you on the UPK. We received the email saying that is process your UPK families like we did CPP, and told us to get the form, give it to the parent, have them fill out that form and get it back to and hold on to it until we tell you to download it and send it to us. Now, this is what
Ernestine, can you send me that email? Would you be willing to do that?
sure.
I mean, I'll put my email here.
Okay, how do I pull this off the chat? Just
Oh,
go
it's in
back
your
into
chat?
no, how do I get your
Oh,
email?
if you just click on chat, you'll be able to see it.
Okay.
So it's just dawn@coloradoecea.org, DAWN.
I can forward it to you, but
That would
it
be
just
great.
blew me away. I couldn't believe they said you have 28 slots, but this is what you need to do now. So my thought to this is just stand still, and I'm not accepting anymore. No, just stand
Yeah.
still, because they said fill out the form, hold on to it until they're ready for us to download it to them. So I'm asking parents to fill out the CPP form that we filled out last year. So we're going like the old way that we used to do it, because they don't know what they're doing.
Thanks, Carla. Yeah. I mean, that's an inconsistent thing that's not happening statewide. So that's why I'd like to see that correspondence.
Okay.
Just to keep up.
I was gonna say too, Ernestine, so what I was told by my early childhood council representative, who is specifically our UPK representative, they told me that, so we still have 4 or 5 slots of UPK open, and they told me to call whoever we have on our wait list, enroll them in our program, and then once they are enrolled in our program, to then, if they need to, sit down with them and help them fill out the UPK form. Once the form is submitted, then your UPK representative can go in from the Early Childhood Council and enroll them in your program. That was the easiest way I found to be able to get the funding that we need quicker because of the deadline.
That's a good call out. So, okay, guys, it's 8:02. So you're being kicked out. It's time to go. Go do your homework, do your finances. We'll talk next week. Okay.
Okay, I'll send it to you. Okay.
Utilize
Thank
me as
you.
a resource, y'all. I'm happy to help.